So Jesus goes back. Look at verse 18. I counsel you. So he's sitting down having a counseling session. Buy from me gold. By the way, Laodicea had 3 industries. They were a gold mining center. I mean, if you wanted gold, they had gold, they mined gold, there was a banking center there. It was a very wealthy town. Number 2, they had very unique sheep that lived there. They were black, and they had black wool, and the black wool clothing from Laodicea was known all over the empire. Third thing, they had the ophthalmic Mayo Clinic of the day. Ophthalmology is the eye medicine. They had a hospital in Laodicea that over the generations, they had made this special medicine that helped people not lose their eyesight. Because if you think about the ancient world, if you're riding on a horse or a chariot through those dusty roads, you constantly had dirt in your face, your nose, your eyes, and you try and cover up, but they didn't have nice, ski goggles. You just had a cloth. And so these people in the ancient world were afflicted with runny eyes. In fact, Paul had some kind of a runny eye disease. That's why he talked about his thorn in the flesh. Many think that it was an eye disease. But so when you went to Laodicea, either you went there for the ophthalmology, get your eyes fixed, or you were buying the latest, sleek black wool outfit, or you were into gold. Now look what Jesus says. You talk about, he already, hot or cold, he already got their attention that he knew them. But look what he says in 18. I counsel you, buy gold refined in the fire, that you may be really rich. You're not rich, really. White garments. You guys are all into these black wool, these sheep you have. You get white garments from me, that you may be clothed, and the shame of your nakedness may not be revealed, and anoint your eyes with salve, that you may see. Wow. Jesus said, you can have eternal investments. You can walk cleansed and set free from sin's enslavements, be clothed in white, and I can fix your eyes so you can always see me clearly. But look at verse 19. I wrote, true Christians, or true children of God, get spanked. Look at verse 19. As many as I love, I rebuke and chasten. Therefore be zealous and repent. It's always the same. Okay. Now think, we've gone through 7 churches. 5 of them had big problems. Now Smyrna, he said, don't fear. But he didn't say it negatively. He just said, when you go through the hard times, remember not to fear. He didn't condemn them. He just said, don't fear. So 5 of them he condemns. Think about it. When the great physician, remember he's wearing his sash and he's got his long white, he's the great high priest with those laser-like eyes. He's walking around looking at the churches. When the great physician examines my life, number 1, will I be like Ephesus? Will he find a spiritual heart condition, that my arteries are clogged up and I don't love like I used to love? The great physician would notice that. Or like Pergamos, will he find that my immunity is compromised? See, they were living by the altar or the throne of Satan. Satan's headquarters were there. They were sitting by a nuclear sin reactor. I mean, the worst demons were always coming through town. And that was slowly wearing down the immunity, and they were compromising. Or will I be like Thyatira? Remember the one that had the trade guilds and the dancing girls? Will he find that I'm raging with the infection of sin in my life? By the way, think about it for a minute. The message of Revelation 2 and 3 always says at the end, hear what the Spirit says to the churches, 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 the churches, the churches. That's 7 times. Why? Number 1, there were 7 literal churches back then. Jesus knew exactly each one and had a message addressed to their local assembly that fit uniquely only them. That's number 1. Number 2, Jesus said, all of you churches need to listen to all these letters. Why? Because there are Ephesian Christians in every church. There are people in every church that love the Lord and serve the Lord more in the past than they do now. There were Pergamite people who were outside the church starting to flirt with sin. No one at the church knew it, but they were slowly losing their immunity and saying no to sin. Then there were Thyatirans who weren't flirting with sin. I mean, they were in the church sinning. Remember the Jezebel seducing them? Then there were churches that you couldn't even tell were a church. They're like Sardis. They're dead. I mean, they're like that accident I saw in Romania. And you have to check their pulse. And Jesus spoke to them. He said, if you have ears to hear, you can repent. And he was trying to resuscitate them like an ambulance. And there are Christians like Laodicea. Will he check my eyes and find me blind? Have I neglected the Bible so much I'm like the cave salamanders? They haven't used their eyes in so long, they can't see. How did we start to see? When Jesus shared the gospel with the Apostle Paul in Acts 26 and verse 18, he tells Paul the 7 elements of salvation. And he said, I'm sending you to the Gentiles, Acts 26:18. And when you preach the gospel, here's what happens to someone. In fact, for me, I wrote Gospel 21. That's the 21st gospel presentation in the book of Acts. To open their eyes. So whenever someone gets saved, the first thing that happens is their eyes are opened. We aren't like cats. We're born and then later our eyes open, like kittens. No. I've been at 8 births. Their eyes are wide open and they're screaming. It's amazing. It's just a scary world. In order to turn them from darkness to light, as soon as we're saved, our eyes open, and God turns us from darkness to light, our canoe, from heading toward the darkness and destruction toward light. Number 3, from the power of Satan to God. Number 4, they receive forgiveness of sins. Number 5, they have an inheritance. Number 6, they're sanctified. What is that? Becoming useful to God. And number 7, they have faith in me. What is that? Believing in a past event that has present. But what's the first thing salvation does in verse 18? Opened eyes. In every church, there are people that are like all of these, plus Smyrna and Philadelphia. There are left their first love people. There are refined, suffering people like the Smyrnians. There are people that are compromised with sin. There are people that are infected. There are people that are in cardiac arrest. There are people who are like Philadelphia. The door is open. They're going through it, and nothing can stop that ministry. And then there are these people. Will he check my eyes and find me blind? Have I allowed the stuff of this world to so crowd my life that I neglect the Bible? I become blind to the things of God. Am I stagnating? Am I no longer hot and refreshing to people, cold and renewing? Am I comfortable? Am I increased with what I like? And I have no urgency.